What was hygiene like across the Old West? Picture this: dust in the air, sweat on your skin, the smell of horses, gunpowder, and long days under a burning sun. The Old West appears tough in movies, but daily life was even more challenging. Bathing was rare. Clean clothes were a luxury. Soap was precious. Germs were invisible. Enemies nobody fully understood yet. This is not a shiny cowboy story. This is about survival. About how settlers, outlaws, soldiers, and families tried to stay clean in a world with no running water, no deodorant, and minimal comfort. Step into a time where hygiene meant grit, patience, and pure necessity. 10. Slow change over time. Hygiene in the Old West did not improve overnight. It changed slowly, piece by piece, as frontier towns stopped being temporary camps and started acting like permanent cities. In the early years, most settlements had dirt streets, open trash pits, and animal waste everywhere. Water came from rivers, wells, or barrels, and it was often polluted. People lived with bad smells, sickness, and filth because there were no better options. As towns grew, problems became harder to ignore. Disease outbreaks pushed leaders to act. Places like San Francisco began adding basic sanitation rules. Trash collection started in limited areas. Streets were slowly graded and cleared. Wooden sidewalks appeared, keeping people out of the mud and waste. These changes were small, but they mattered. Indoor plumbing was the real turning point. At first, only wealthy homes and hotels had access to piped water. Most people still relied on outhouses and shared wells. Over time, water systems expanded. Public bathhouses improved. Private bathrooms became more common. Clean water reduced the spread of cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. Soap factories replaced homemade lye soap. Toothbrushes became affordable and widely sold. Doctors began learning about germs and sterilization, even if the knowledge spread slowly. Cleanliness shifted from a luxury to a social expectation. By the time the frontier era faded, hygiene had become part of everyday life instead of an afterthought. The Old West did not become clean all at once, but step by step, survival living gave way to modern standards and healthier communities. 9. Life on cattle trails. Hygiene on cattle trails was almost non-existent, and no one expected it to be any different. Cowboys moving along routes like the Chisholm Trail or the Oregon Trail spent weeks, sometimes months, away from towns. Water was saved for animals first, not people. Bathing was rare and usually done only when a clean river or creek appeared along the route. Clothes were worn day after day without washing. Shirts stiffened with sweat, dust, and dried mud. Boots stayed on until they nearly fell apart. Cowboys slept on the ground, often in the same clothes they worked in. When it rained, some saw it as a natural bath. When it did not, dirt simply piled up. Personal grooming mattered very little compared to survival. Shaving was skipped. Hair grew long and tangled. Lice and fleas were common companions. Sharing blankets and bedrolls only made the problem worse. There was no privacy and no real way to stay clean while constantly moving. Soap was rarely carried because it added weight. Tooth care was almost impossible on the trail. Many cowboys accepted bad smells and discomfort as part of the job. Cleanliness was a luxury reserved for town stops, not daily life. On cattle trails, hygiene took a back seat to endurance. Staying alive, guiding the herd, and reaching the destination mattered more than comfort or appearance. This harsh routine shaped the rugged image of the Old West cowboy. 8. Disease outbreaks and public health. Disease spread fast across the Old West, mainly because hygiene standards were extremely low. Towns grew faster than sanitation systems. Open sewage ran through the streets. Animal waste mixed with drinking water. Wells were often located near outhouses, contaminating the water supply without anyone realizing the danger. Illnesses like cholera, typhoid, and dysentery were common and deadly. A single infected traveler could bring sickness into a boomtown, and within days, dozens could fall ill. Mining towns were especially vulnerable because of overcrowding and poor ventilation. Most people did not understand germs. Many believed bad smells caused disease rather than bacteria. Doctors reused medical tools without cleaning them properly. Bandages were used again and again. Hospitals, when they existed, were not much cleaner than private homes. San Francisco and other growing cities slowly began to notice patterns. When waste piled up, sickness followed. This led to early public health efforts, including trash removal, street cleaning, and water inspections. These changes were limited at first, but marked the beginning of organized sanitation. Disease outbreaks forced towns to rethink daily life. Hygiene was no longer just about comfort. It became a matter of survival, pushing the Old West toward cleaner practices and the foundations of modern public health systems. 7. Lack of medical cleanliness. Medical hygiene in the Old West was extremely poor, even by the standards of the time. Doctors worked with very limited knowledge about germs and infection. Germ theory was not widely accepted yet, so cleanliness was often seen as optional instead of necessary. Many doctors believed illness came from bad air, not dirty tools. Surgical instruments were reused again and again without proper cleaning. Knives, saws, and forceps might be wiped on a cloth or rinsed in water, then used on the next patient. Bandages were often reused as well. Hospitals were rare, and most medical work happened in homes, saloons, or makeshift offices. Frontier doctors treated gunshot wounds, broken bones, and infections under harsh conditions. Amputations were common and extremely dangerous. Without sterilization, infections spread quickly. Many patients survived the injury but died later from blood poisoning or fever. Medicine chests carried basic supplies like alcohol, opium, and herbal remedies. Alcohol was sometimes used to clean wounds, but it was also used to dull pain. Clean water was not always available, making even basic wound care risky. Doctors like Doc Holliday had formal training, but even educated professionals lacked modern tools and understanding. Medical hygiene slowly improved as cities grew and new knowledge spread. Until then, seeking medical help in the Old West often came with serious risks and uncertain outcomes. 6. Dirty hotels and saloons. Hotels and saloons in the Old West were far from clean or comfortable. These places were crowded, noisy, and often filthy. Beds were shared by different guests night after night, sometimes without the sheets ever being changed. Mattresses were stuffed with straw or old fabric, which attracted insects. Bedbugs, lice, and fleas were constant problems. Travelers are expected to wake up with bites. Blankets were rarely washed. In rough towns like Tombstone and Dodge City, cleanliness depended on how much money a guest could spend. Cheap rooms meant dirty floors, bad smells, and poor ventilation. Saloons were no better. Spilled drinks, tobacco, spit, and mud covered the floors. Many saloons had sawdust spread across the ground to soak up messes. This sawdust was not cleaned regularly and became a breeding ground for germs. Bathing facilities and hotels were limited. Some places offered a single tub for all guests. The water was reused, making it more harmful than helpful. Towels were shared and rarely washed. Despite these conditions, hotels and saloons were social centers. People accepted the filth because there were few alternatives. Comfort and hygiene were sacrificed for shelter, company, and a place to rest in the harsh world of the Old West. 5. Women's hygiene struggles. Life for women in the Old West made hygiene a daily challenge. Most women lived far from towns, often on isolated homesteads or traveling in wagon trains. Clean water was limited, and every drop had to be carried by hand. Bathing was not a regular habit. Instead, women focused on staying functional and healthy with what little they had. Laundry was one of the hardest tasks. Clothes were washed by hand using washboards, lye soap, and cold water from rivers or wells. This process took hours and strained the body. Dresses, petticoats, and undergarments were heavy, and drying them could take days. Clean clothing mattered because it helped prevent skin infections even when full bathing was not possible. Personal hygiene was handled privately and quietly. Menstrual care relied on homemade cloths that were washed and reused. There were no commercial products, no privacy, and little medical guidance. Women learned from older family members and shared knowledge among themselves. Hair care involved simple combing and braiding to keep it manageable. Perfumes and powders were sometimes used to mask odors rather than remove them. Cleanliness was often judged by appearance instead of actual sanitation. Despite these hardships, women kept households running. Their efforts reduced sickness and improved survival. Women's unseen labor played a major role in shaping daily hygiene across the Old West. 4. Tooth care problems. Dental hygiene in the Old West was extremely poor and often ignored until pain became unbearable. Toothbrushes were rare and expensive, especially in rural areas. Most people cleaned their teeth using a cloth, salt, baking soda, or charcoal. Some did not clean them at all. Sugar consumption increased as supplies reached frontier towns, but dental care did not keep up. Cavities, infections, and tooth loss were common. Toothaches were a serious problem and could last for weeks or months. Many people lived with constant pain because there were no reliable treatments. Dentists were scarce. In many towns, there were none at all. When dental work was needed, it was often performed by doctors, barbers, or anyone with tools and a steady hand. Extractions were the most common solution. Teeth were pulled without anesthesia or with alcohol as the only pain relief. Poor dental hygiene affects overall health. Infections from teeth could spread to the jaw or bloodstream. Some people died from complications that started with a simple cavity. Fresh breath and white teeth were not expectations in the Old West. Survival mattered more than appearance. Dental care only improved when towns became cities and professional dentistry became more accessible. 3. Homemade soap. Soap in the Old West was simple, harsh, and homemade. Most families made their own soap using animal fat and wood ash, creating what was known as lye soap. This process took time and care. Fat had to be collected, ash filtered, and the mixture cooked until it hardened. The result cleaned dirt, but was rough on the skin. Lye soap was used for everything. People washed their bodies, clothes, dishes, and tools with the same bar. Because the soap was so strong, it often caused dry skin, burns, or rashes. Still, it was better than nothing. Commercial soap existed in larger cities, but it was expensive and difficult to find in remote areas. Soap was not used daily. Water was too precious to waste, and bathing was occasional. Many people believed frequent washing weakened the body, especially in cold weather. Cleanliness was judged more by visible dirt than by actual sanitation. Soap making was often women's work, passed down through families. A good batch was valuable and stored carefully. Poor soap could cause injuries, but people had no safer alternative. Despite its flaws, homemade soap helped reduce odors and surface dirt. It played a quiet but important role in frontier hygiene, even if it fell far short of modern standards. 2. Public bathhouses. Public bathhouses were one of the few places where people in the Old West could bathe properly. These bathhouses were most common in larger towns like San Francisco, Deadwood, and Virginia City. For many people, this was their only chance to wash thoroughly. Bathing was not private or sanitary. A single tub was often used by many people on the same day. Water was changed infrequently, if at all. Towels were shared, and tubs were rarely scrubbed. Instead of removing germs, bathing sometimes spreads them. Bathhouses charged a fee, making them a luxury. Wealthy travelers and businessmen visited more often, while laborers bathed rarely. Some bathhouses offered steam rooms, influenced by Chinese and European traditions, especially in San Francisco. Despite the risks, bathhouses were popular social spaces. People talked, relaxed, and escaped harsh living conditions. Cleanliness was secondary to comfort. Public bathhouses highlighted the gap between the desire for cleanliness and the reality of frontier life. They showed progress, but also how far the Old West still was from true sanitation. 1. Daily washing habits. Daily hygiene in the Old West looked very different from modern life. Most people did not bathe every day. Water had to be carried from wells, rivers, or rain barrels, making frequent washing impractical. Instead, people focused on cleaning visible dirt. Face, hands, and neck were washed most often. A small basin and a cloth were used each morning. Full body washing happened only when water was plentiful or when people reached a river or town. In winter, bathing was avoided because of the cold. Clothing was worn repeatedly without washing. People believed clean clothes mattered more than clean skin. Odors were masked with powders or perfume rather than removed. Children grew up with these habits, seeing them as normal. Cleanliness standards were shaped by survival, not comfort. Daily washing in the Old West was about function, not freshness. People adapted to their environment, accepting dirt as part of life while doing the best they could with limited resources. So now you know the truth behind the dust, the sweat, and the daily struggle to stay clean in the Old West. Life wasn't polished or pretty. It was raw, uncomfortable, and sometimes downright shocking. Every small habit told a bigger story about survival on the frontier. But here's the real question. Could you survive even 1 week living by those rules, with no modern soap, no showers, and no easy comforts? If this journey surprised you, don't stop here. Hit like, share this with someone who loves hidden history, and subscribe for more untold stories that history books skip over. Your next deep dive is waiting.